I woke up in the middle of the night, but I didn't open my eyes. Not because I was tired, but because the moment I regained consciousness, I heard my mother say something that made my blood run cold. Is there anyone in your life that you wish you could get revenge on? Tell me in the comments who that person is and what they did. I'd really like to know your story. And please, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue bringing you these stories. Your support helps me keep creating and sharing new content for you. My name is Maya Thompson, and this is the story of how I woke up in the middle of the night and heard my own mother planning something that would destroy me. I was 25 years old when I fell seriously ill. It started with constant fatigue and body pain. After multiple tests, the doctors diagnosed me with a rare autoimmune disorder. My condition worsened quickly, and within a few weeks, I had to be hospitalized. There were days when I was so weak that I could barely keep my eyes open. My mother, Patricia, stayed with me in the hospital most of the time. My stepfather, Richard, would visit occasionally, but never stayed for long. I was too sick to notice much, but I could feel the tension between them whenever they were in the same room. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I suddenly woke up. The room was dark, except for a small night lamp near my bed. I could hear the steady beeping of the heart monitor. My body still felt heavy, so I didn't move. I just laid there with my eyes closed, trying to gather some strength. That's when I heard my mother's voice. She was speaking in a low tone on the phone. I assumed she was talking to my stepfather. At first, I didn't pay much attention, but then I heard something that made me freeze completely. "I know it's risky," my mother said in a hushed voice, "but if she doesn't make it, the insurance money will solve everything. We can finally clear the debts and start fresh." There was a short pause. She was listening to whatever the person on the other end was saying. Then she spoke again, and her next words hit me like a truck. "Richard, I'm telling you, it would be better if she just didn't wake up. We've already spent so much on her treatment. If she stays like this for a few more weeks, we can claim the insurance without any complications. No one will suspect anything." I felt my heart pounding so hard against my chest that I was scared the monitor would start beeping loudly. I wanted to open my eyes. I wanted to scream. But something inside me told me to stay completely still. My mother continued talking for another minute or two. She discussed how they would handle the paperwork and what they would do with the money. She even laughed once and said, "At least something good will come out of this mess." I laid there in complete shock. My own mother was hoping I would die. She wasn't worried about my health. She was worried about money. And she was discussing it with my stepfather like it was some kind of business plan. I stayed silent. I didn't move. I didn't make a single sound, because in that moment, I realized something very clearly. If they knew I had heard everything, they might try to do something worse to keep me quiet permanently. So I stayed still, and I started thinking. If my own mother could wish for my death just to get insurance money, then I had to be very careful from now on. I decided right there, in that hospital bed, with my eyes closed, that I would not let them win. Not this time. I stayed completely silent and kept my eyes closed for the next 4 days. It wasn't easy. My body was weak and lying still for so long was painful, but I forced myself to do it. Every time a nurse or a doctor came into the room, I would slightly move my fingers or respond to basic questions so they wouldn't think my condition was worsening. But whenever my mother was alone in the room, I would go completely still again. I listened to every conversation she had. Over the next few days, I learned a lot. My mother and stepfather were in serious financial trouble. My stepfather's business had failed, and they had taken heavy loans. They were struggling to pay the hospital bills, and the insurance money from my father's death, which was in my name, was the only thing that could save them from bankruptcy. My mother had even spoken to a lawyer about what would happen to my assets if I remained in a coma for a long time. She was trying to find a legal way to access the money without me waking up. Every time I heard her speak so casually about my death, something inside me died a little. The woman who was supposed to love me unconditionally was now treating my life like a financial opportunity. On the fifth night, I finally decided that I had heard enough. I slowly opened my eyes. The room was dimly lit. My mother was sitting on the chair beside my bed, scrolling through her phone. When she noticed that my eyes were open, she quickly put her phone away and leaned forward with a fake, concerned expression. "Maya! Oh my God, you're awake!" she said, her voice suddenly filled with emotion. "Nurse! Doctor! She's awake!" Doctors and nurses rushed into the room. They checked my vitals and asked me simple questions. I answered them slowly. My mother stood beside them, holding my hand and acting like the perfect worried mother. But I could see the panic behind her eyes. Later that evening, when the doctors and nurses left, and it was just the two of us, I decided it was time to speak. "Mom," I said in a weak voice, "I heard you." She was adjusting the blanket on my bed when she suddenly froze. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to sound confused. "I heard you talking to Richard on the phone," I said, looking straight at her. "I heard you say it would be better if I didn't wake up. I heard everything about the insurance money and the house." My mother's face turned completely pale. She took a step back from the bed. "Maya, you must have been dreaming," she said nervously. "You were in a coma. People hear strange things when they're unconscious. You probably misunderstood what I was saying." I shook my head slowly. "I didn't misunderstand anything, Mom. I heard every single word. You were hoping I would die so you could take the insurance money." She looked around the room as if she was scared someone might hear us. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Maya, you don't understand. We're in a lot of debt. Your stepfather's business has failed. We needed that money. You were never going to use it anyway. It made sense for us to have it." I looked at her with disgust. "So you were willing to let your own daughter die for money?" She didn't answer. She just looked away. That silence was enough. I turned my face away from her and said in a weak but firm voice, "Get out." "Maya, please, let's talk about this properly." "Get out," I repeated, louder this time, "and don't come back." My mother stood there for a few seconds, looking completely lost. Then she quietly picked up her bag and walked out of the room without saying another word. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. My own mother had wished for my death, and now I was going to make sure she paid for it. After my mother left the hospital room that night, I knew things would never be the same again. The woman who gave birth to me had openly admitted that she was hoping I would die so she could take the insurance money. That kind of betrayal doesn't heal easily. The next morning, I asked the nurse to call my lawyer. I had already spoken to him a few times before my health worsened, so he knew my situation well. When he came to the hospital, I told him everything, from the conversation I overheard between my mother and stepfather to how they were planning to take control of my assets. My lawyer, Mr. Daniel Hayes, listened carefully and then said, "Maya, what your mother did is not just morally wrong. It can also be used as evidence of financial exploitation. We need to act quickly to protect all your assets before they try anything else." With his help, I immediately transferred all my father's assets, insurance policies, and properties into a trust that only I could control. I also changed the beneficiary details everywhere. I made sure that even if something happened to me, my mother and stepfather would not receive a single penny. A few days later, I was discharged from the hospital. My mother tried to act normal and even offered to take care of me at home, but I refused. I told her clearly that I would be staying elsewhere and that I didn't want any contact with her or my stepfather for the time being. She tried to guilt trip me again, saying things like, "I'm still your mother and you're overreacting," but I didn't fall for it this time. Over the next few months, I slowly started rebuilding my life. I went back to work, started therapy, and focused on my health. My mother tried reaching out several times through calls and messages, but I kept my distance. I had finally understood that some people don't deserve a place in your life, no matter how closely related they are by blood. One evening, almost 8 months after I woke up from the coma, my mother showed up at my apartment. She looked older and exhausted. She begged me to forgive her and said that she made a mistake because she was under financial pressure. I looked at her and said something I had been holding in for a long time. "Mom, I can forgive you for being selfish, but I can never forget that you were ready to let me die for money. That's not something a mother should ever think about her child. I don't hate you, but I also don't want you in my life anymore." She stood there in silence for a few seconds, then quietly turned around and left. That was the last time I saw her. Looking back at everything, I realized a few important things. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you can become the biggest threat to your peace. And when that happens, you don't have to keep giving them chances just because they are family. Protecting yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. I also learned that staying quiet doesn't always mean you're weak. Sometimes staying silent and gathering your strength is the smartest thing you can do. I could have confronted my mother the moment I woke up, but I waited. That patience helped me gather proof and protect myself properly. Most importantly, I understood that real strength comes from knowing your worth. For years, I had let my family make me feel like I was less important. But the moment I decided that I deserved better, everything started changing. Is there anyone in your life that you wish you could get revenge on? Tell me in the comments who that person is and what they did. I'd really like to know your story. And please don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue bringing you these stories. Your support helps me keep creating and sharing new content for you.